Hey everybody, this is David Schooley with the Big John MMA Fight Club. I am talking to Big John McCarthy, as you would expect, and we're getting some awesome commentary on upcoming fights. This fight we're going to talk about right now, this is UFC on Fuel TV. It's in Japan, and it is March 2nd, and they've got some really great fights going on here. I want to just kind of go through a few of these and get some comments from you, John, on what you think about these guys. Let's talk about the main card here. This is Wanderlei Silva and Brian Stann. Two incredible guys, and you know what? We're going to get to see them bang. What do you think?
You look at this fight and, seeing that Wanderlei is actually going to be fighting again in Japan, where he had, the most success that was possible in his career and the greatest moments of his career were actually in Japan. So it's nice to see him, be able to go back and fight again in the land of the rising sun with a lot of people that absolutely idolize him.
Right.
And he deserves that because he put on some incredible fights when he was with Pride. And a guy that would fight anyone, fought guys like Mark Hunt, who was 290 pounds, at a time that, Wanderlei was probably 220 at the most. And that was him putting on weight to try to get up. And you look at, all of the great fights he had against Quentin Jackson, and then the fights he had against Dan Henderson, both in, Japan and then in the States. He's been there, done it all, had an unbelievable fight against Chuck Liddell in the UFC.
Yes.
And it's really just proved that, he's just a true warrior.
Yeah.
And I love watching him fight. And he's fighting another true warrior, an American warrior when it came to being in the Marine Corps and being a guy that served our country, and Brian Stann. You cannot say a bad word about either guy.
Right.
Wanderlei is as good a man and good a fighter and has as much, pride in what he does and puts everything he has into what, he does. And Brian Stann is exactly the same thing. Brian Stann is... Man, when you got a kid, you want your kid to grow up and be like Brian Stann.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You look at this is a guy that just does everything right. And you go, man, that's a guy to idolize. And he's just an incredible person. And, what he's done, throughout his life. And then in his fighting career, he continues to get better. That's the impressive thing about Brian right now is he's gotten much better in his wrestling. His submission game is good. His stand-up has always been a little bit in the beginning. He was always powerful, but wasn't very technically proficient. Now he's pretty technically proficient. Yeah. He carries that power. He's going against a guy in the buzzsaw Wanderlei Silva that just comes after you and just wings punches and says, you know what, I am going to sit here and trade with you. I don't care if you like it or not. It's gonna happen.
To the wind. We're gonna stand.
You throw yours, I'll throw mine, and we're gonna see what happens. And I think that's what you're gonna see in this fight. You're gonna see them, both of them. Knowing Brian the way I do, knowing Vanderlei, they're gonna go out there and they're just gonna start banging on each other. And I don't. The one thing I will say, I don't see this fight going to the end.
Right.
I think one of them is gonna end up catching the other one, and it's going to be, an exciting fight. And that's what the Japanese fans love to see. And I think that's what these fighters are going to give them.
Well, yeah, both of these guys and I've been a fan of both these guys from the first time I saw them as well. And, one thing I would like to echo that you said is they're just good guys. Just period. And, outside of the ring, they're really good guys. But inside that ring, they're crazy men, that's
the way it's supposed to be. There's a time to turn it off. And there's definitely a time to turn it on.
Yeah.
And both of them know exactly what, when that is. And they represent the sport, both of them. You can't ask for two better representatives of our sport in the way they handle each other, both outside the ring and then inside the ring.
Completely agree. I can honestly say, of all the people I know that are MMA fans, not a single one that I know dislikes either of these two guys. They're just awesome.
It's funny because I've talked to, them before. I know Wanderlei did not want to fight Brian, not because he was worried about fighting Brian, that he would fight anyone, sure. But he didn't want to fight someone that he respected so much, and that the fans respected so much, because then he felt bad if something bad happened. It's like, man, you know what are you gonna do? The guy's a fighter, and he wants to fight. You always want to fight, so that's just the way it is.
People are gonna love it either way, and you're gonna see some respect between the two of them. It's a good thing. So. Well, let's talk about some of these other guys. We got Hunt versus Struve. We've got Gomi versus Sanchez. We've got Okami and Lombard. I mean, these are some good matchups. Let's get some highlights from you. Tell us what you think about some of these guys.
Well, the interesting thing when you talk about Hunt and Struve is that here's your classic of striker and grappler. Hunt he's absolutely been improving. He's improved his wrestling. He's improved his submission game. He doesn't get caught in things. He goes after certain submissions. And, Mark Hunt has got that chin of granite. He's the guy that, he just keeps on walking through things that, are thrown at him until he lands one of his bombs and hurts you. Right. He's going against, the skyscraper and Stefan Struve, who's 6'11", 7 foot tall.
Guy. Yep.
He's gonna absolutely have to reach up to hit him. But when you look, Stefan Struve has got a very good ground game. He's a good submission fighter, and he pulls off good submissions.
Got those long
arms. And so, you look at this, and Mark Hunt. If the fight is kept on its feet, Mark Hunt is the guy that's going to possibly walk away with the victory here. If the fight goes to the ground, you can see Stefan Struve walking away with the victory here. It's really who's going to be able to get the fight where they want the fight to be. Can Mark keep it in the stand-up, or is Stefan going to get it to the ground?
This is one of those just crazy interesting fights that I cannot wait to see, because, I mean, you've got a 7-footer and a 5'10" guy, right, with such different skill sets, you know, that you just really, I mean, you can argue, and I know there's a lot of fans out there that are going to argue this one big time on, how it's going to go. I honestly don't know. I have no clue. This could go either way. It's going to be crazy, but I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, same. The other fight that's on that card, you have Takanori Gomi going against Diego Sanchez. That's a great fight.
Right.
Diego always comes to fight, and Gomi comes to knock you out. That's what he wants to do. I think overall, if you're looking at the fighters, I think Diego is the more complete fighter, even though his stand-up is a little awkward compared to Gomi's. Gomi's got the smoother stand-up, but Diego's got the better, smoother ground.
Right.
And both that's going to be a great fight. Diego usually comes to fights very well prepared as far as his physical conditioning and pushes the pace. Gomi sometimes tends to have problems when he can't control that pace. So it'll be a question: can he keep Diego off him and control the pace the way he wants to, or is Diego going to be able to push that pace and create a problem for Gomi as far as his conditioning and get that heart rate up, which is going to start to make him fold? Right. The fight that's super interesting in my mind on this card is the Hector Lombard versus Yushin Okami fight.
Get these big guys in there. That's going to be fun.
Well, and you look at it. Here's the question. The real question is, Hector came from Bellator, being the Bellator middleweight champion. He had a huge win streak going. He comes to the UFC and he falters in his first fight against Tim Boetsch, and that happens. It's the pressure of being in the UFC the first time and everything. But he had a very impressive second fight against Husamar Palhares. Yushin Okami has been one of those guys that's been almost like, that status of, can he beat, is he gonna beat the champion? And he's failed twice. He fought Rich Franklin in UFC 72 in Ireland, and lost to Rich. Didn't get the win there, and he has fought Anderson Silva and lost against Anderson. But everybody else in that division, for the most part, can't beat Yushin Okami. So it's going to be a real question mark of looking at Hector Lombard and seeing how well Hector does against Yushin. Yushin is huge for a 185-pound fighter. Yeah. He is strong. He's got very good ground. His stand-up is good. It's not the most flashy or anything, and this is where Hector is going to want to keep the fight. Although Hector comes with a judo background, he likes to stand and bang now. That's what he likes to do. I don't think you'll see him trying to take the fight to the ground. I think you'll see Yushin trying to take it there and trying to utilize what he's good at there. It's the question of how we're going to get a good measuring stick of how good Hector Lombard is off of his performance against Yushin Okami.
Right. And if his takedown defense is good, then we're going to see a really good fight.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, once again, great card, lots of great fights. Too many to even mention. I mean, this is in Japan. It's fully stacked. It's March 2nd, and it is going to be on Fuel TV. So another one of these that's good for all of us fans, because we'll get to see it. Absolutely, free TV, love it. So, John, I want to thank you for your comments. All of you guys out there, you MMA Fight Club members, I want you to lock in your predictions on these. There's going to be some great fights. Let's see how well you guys can do it. John, thanks again.
Thank you.